At Great Wolf Lodge, there's adventure for the whole family. You and your pack can splash away in the indoor water park where it's always 84 degrees. There's a massive wave pool, a lazy river, and tons of water slides for your pack to enjoy together. And the fun doesn't stop there. Get ready to explore and play at adventure-packed attractions from Magi Quest, a live-action game that takes place throughout the lodge, to the Northern Lights Arcade. There's also a bunch of great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. And the best part, with 23 lodges across the country, you're always only a short drive away from adventure. I am so excited to visit Great Wolf Lodge with my nephew who's 6. He cannot wait for the water park. So bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Book your stay today at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I'm your host, Joanne Crone, joined here by the brilliant Brie Tucker.
Why, hello, everybody. How are you?
We are talking about something that actually, Brie, you and I talk about really often, looking back at our childhoods and seeing how we were raised and how that affects the way we parent today and the choices we make and the reactions that we have as well.
Oh, yeah. I feel like in general, I am a person that if I had a bad experience with something or something didn't sit right with me, I'm not always a small swinger. I'm like hey, let's go to the other end of the spectrum and just see how this works out, which isn't always the best.
And you think that resulted in your childhood? Like that started?
I have very strong feelings about the things that my parents did when I was younger that I did not want to do with my kids. Now, remember, though, too, that the things my parents did, it is in the view of a child's eyes. So I don't even actually know if my parents ever meant for it to be the way it was, but I'll throw out one thing and then we will move on. They were always tired. And I was the youngest. So I always threw that into, oh, well, they were too old when they had me. So I have to have all my kids before 30.
Oh, wow. That's a big thing that you took from childhood and put towards your like adult parenting life.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, going back to mine, and we'll talk about this more in the episode with our guest. Jennie Monness is the co-founder of Charm Spring, a children's brand bringing more connection and fun to family life, and Union Square Play, a play space for kids 0 to 5 focused on early development and community. She also hosts the new podcast, We Didn't Turn Out Okay, helping parents grow from the roadblocks and narratives of their own upbringing. With a master's in psychology and education from Columbia University, Jennie has over 15 years of experience in early childhood education and lives in New York City with her husband and 2 daughters. And with that, let's get on with the show. Welcome, Jennie, to the podcast. We are so excited to dig into how our childhoods may be affecting our parenting. And of course, your podcast, We Didn't Turn Out Okay. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and so excited about this topic. Even as Brie was talking, I wanted to just like take it all in and respond. And like, it really fuels me because I think there's so much to unlock there.
Oh, there is. Yeah.
There is, because so much of like what we experience during childhood, we take with us unknowingly or knowingly into adulthood. And I was binging on your podcast this morning and I was listening to the episode of you. It was your first solo episode talking about your experience with anxiety and depression and as a kid. And you mentioned a point where you were watching Double Dare, and that's where you knew that, like,
I love Double Dare.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wait. The cream pie pool. I have always wanted to get a kiddie pool, fill it with cream pie, put something in there, and make people wrestle to fight it. Just gotta say.
I had a tiny crush on Mark Summers.
Oh, yeah. He was so cool. Like, who didn't want to be on that show and get to slime their parents? I mean, come on.
So good. So good. Also, I was going to say you're going to die because like just this morning, because I work with children, I'm running little mini camps out here in the Hamptons. We actually do fill mini pools with foam soap. And it just reminds me, I'm like, I wonder after Brie just said that, if that's where the inspo came from.
It might be.
When I made that comment about Double Dare, I'm like, this is going to really put me in a category of people who know what the hell I'm talking about and people who do not.
Right?
Yeah.
We got you, girl. We got you. We got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like in that mention of it, you mentioned how starting in your childhood, you experience these symptoms of anxiety and depression. And I bring that up because what you said in that episode is so much like my own experience, where you can look back to your childhood and see like these little snippets of like clues leading up to your adulthood, and also like how your parents dealt with the situation, especially when it comes to anxiety and depression. And just as a note to all of our listeners, Jennie's episode was also about how you took yourself off of antidepressants. And I just recently did the same thing. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to talk with her about this.
Oh, wow. It's meant to be.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be. So, my first question starts with like, when you were growing up, in terms of anxiety and depression, because I know so many of our listeners have those same feelings as well and struggle with it as well. What did you see in your childhood that led you to feel like you might have had it all along? And what did your parents, how did they deal with it?
Yeah, it's interesting. So that solo episode, very new for me. And it was like only 10 minutes in comparison to like the 60 minutes with guests. So it was very like focused on this specific thing of coming off of Zoloft and a little bit about how I got there. But the two examples that I gave were, rooting for the opposite team in Double Dare, basically. And then another one of me like kicking a rock from A to B, like signs of these like little anxiety coping rituals that I use those examples because they were examples that I recognized as a child as something that was like, this makes me a little bit different, or I recognize not necessarily cognitively now, I recognize that that was a coping mechanism, but I
Yeah.
recognize at the time that it was like some sort of like silly, maybe in my young mind, way to handle. So it was like maybe a unique way of thinking. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like, oh, this means I have anxiety, but I recognized that it was like a little bit of my own routine mentally to kind of get
Yeah.
through things. The other thing that I feel like is noteworthy as you were just talking, Joanne, is like when you talk about parents, I look back and my parents were very much involved, engaged. Like, I look at my mom as like this martyr mom. And yet the times that I recognize now as a mom myself, where I really feel so much love for her, are the times where I feel like either she put her hands up because she couldn't like
Mm-hmm.
save me from something, or she had the wherewithal to be like, she has to work through this. And there were times, where she really tried to like rescue me from my anxiety. And I love her for those. But there were other times where I've even asked her, like, why didn't you like help me with that? And she said, no, like I couldn't. I knew you had to yourself. And of course, the age is dependent on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say, like, I recognized kind of early on that there was something there, maybe along the way, but really came to a head at 17. And then when you ask about like my parents, like they were very much doing all that they could in every situation they could. And I think being really thoughtful about the times when either they were like, we can't do anything, or like, Jennie has to work through this,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
which I find so interesting, right? Like that I really struggled with anxiety and yet had these parents that like, on paper were really amazing,
Yeah.
but we all have traumas, you know,
Oh,
no parent's perfect. And of course we could go there too, but just to like kind of preface everything.
Yeah, I know that like with my own anxiety, I remember seeing it modeled, anxiety being modeled for me as a child. My mom struggles with anxiety and depression. I mean, it's definitely a hereditary thing going
Yeah.
on in our house. And I can look back now and I have such compassion for her because I know how it feels like trying to juggle a kid, trying to juggle work and everything. I could see why she had the responses she did. Do you remember any modeling for you of anxiety behaviors?
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because, right, like you can talk the talk,
yeah.
but you have to walk the walk. And yes, my mom also struggled with that. So while she like probably responded to me in these certain ways, like it's such a testament to like what we're modeling and what example we're setting with ourselves and why healing ourselves as a parent is so important. figuring out where we're not okay. But yes, short answer is my mom also struggled more with depression than anxiety. So there were like lots of role modeling in that way too.
Mm-hmm.
And whether I don't have like the most, when I look back, it's not like those are like the ones jumping out at me, the memories jumping out at me. It's energetic, right? It's like there.
It's like in your body that
Yeah.
you can't help reacting that way. You just go to it automatically.
Yes. So there was definitely that around me for sure.
And it's interesting how you bring up too that you mentioned maybe our parents weren't okay either. They didn't grow up
Yeah.
okay. And so they like pass it down to us and then we pass it down to our kids and so on and so on. And it just keeps going.
I do think we have to give the boomers a bit of a hall pass. I mean, our parents, for the most part, were in the boomer generation of like, we don't talk about feelings unless it's, moms could say I love you, but, frowned upon. It wasn't macho for the dad to. And therapy, that wasn't a thing. And I think I remember too, like ADD, ADHD being really big when we were little. And that was like the first time that you were allowed to have your kid, it feels like, as a society, to kind of have you to acknowledge that your child might have some struggles or challenges.
Yeah.
And then I feel like that door was cracked open like in the late 70s, early 80s. And then we have just shoved it open.
Yeah.
Because of all of the trauma we had from our parents and all the trauma they had from their parents. And I do use trauma as a light word there. I am overgeneralizing. I am aware of that one. Because I do feel like trauma gets kind of like sometimes thrown around a little bit too much. And that's an armchair thing because I'm not a psychologist. But yeah, I feel like they all had a lot of stuff to work with. And it was kind of the blind leading the blind to some extent. Right?
Yeah, they did. And there was a survey just published. Take this with a grain of salt. It was in the New York Post, but it was like they were citing another survey that was done by an institution that today's parents actually are more attuned now to like throwing out. I think it was like 3 out of 5 millennial parents throw out their parents' playbook and are more in tune to communicating with the kids more, making sure their emotional needs are met, and all of this kind of turn we see from not talking about it to it being a really big issue and us addressing it finally. And so right after this, Jennie, I want to dig into how you started addressing it in your own life. And I also want to talk about how you weaned yourself from antidepressants, because I think that's an important conversation. So we'll do that right after this. At Great Wolf Lodge, there's adventure for the whole family. You and your pack can splash away in the indoor water park where it's always 84 degrees. There's a massive wave pool, a lazy river, and tons of water slides for your pack to enjoy together. And the fun doesn't stop there. Get ready to explore and play at adventure-packed attractions from Magi Quest, a live-action game that takes place throughout the lodge, to the Northern Lights Arcade. There's also a bunch of great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. And the best part, with 23 lodges across the country, you're always only a short drive away from adventure. I am so excited to visit Great Wolf Lodge with my nephew who's 6. He cannot wait for the water park. So bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Book your stay today at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack.
Hi, everyone. This is Jennie Monness from We Didn't Turn Out Okay podcast. Did you know at Great Wolf Lodge, there's adventure for the whole family? You and your pack can splash away in the indoor water park where it's always 84 degrees. There's a massive wave pool, a lazy river, and tons of water slides for your pack to enjoy together. And the fun doesn't stop there. Get ready to explore and play at adventure-packed attractions from Magi Quest, a live-action game that takes place throughout the lodge to the Northern Lights Arcade. There's also a bunch of great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. And the best part, with 23 lodges across the country, you're always only a short drive away from adventure. As a parent who loves family adventures, I love when everything's in one place. It's why I can't wait to take my family to Great Wolf Lodge. So bring your pack together at a lodge near you, book your stay today at greatwolf.com, and strengthen the pack.
Taking on a DIY job around the house is the ultimate summer project. But if your DIY home security system is a beware of dog sign, when your real pet is Princess the cat, that's safe-ish. To be actually safe, help protect your home with a DIY system from ADT. It's easy to install and gives you virtual assistance from ADT's technical support team. Best of all, you can tell everyone in the neighborhood you set it up yourself. Don't settle for safe-ish this summer. DIY with ADT instead. Visit ADT.com to learn more.
Jennie, I am really fascinated about the reasons that you decided to go off antidepressants, because I want to share mine as well. Like, I think we're pretty similar. We can all share all. Yeah.
I can join this boat too.
Okay. Yeah. So why did you decide to go off of them?
So I decided to go off. It actually, I felt like was the universe pointing me in that direction, where at the time, and this was now, I'd say like 5 months ago, me saying like the universe pointing me in that direction would not be something I would say, but in hindsight, that's what I believe. So I really felt like Zoloft, which I had been on the most recently for the last, 17 years, was something that I would be on forever, that I have a chemical imbalance, maybe genetically, and this is what I need to be my best self, my best version of me as a mom, and show up for everybody, all the things. I had gone off a little bit during pregnancies and had months in to both recognize when I would be like less able to cope with things like anger and frustration, that was my sign to go on. It was more like less about like, I want to always be happy. It was more like, I don't like how I sounded to that person, or I don't like how frustrated I'm getting in this situation. And those were my signs of, I need to be on this. And then really it all came about because someone had reached out who I really admire in business and childhood, motherhood space, about a study recommending psychedelics, a specific one for women who have postpartum depression. And I had heard and believed in psychedelics when used appropriately for this, and have been very like interested in it, although I had never gone there. And I was like, I would love to share about this. Can I have you on the podcast? She wanted me to help recruit women who might benefit from this because of, what I do. And she's like, you shouldn't have me, even though I believe in this study and I'm behind it. I want to introduce you to the woman who is really like at the, foundational like birth of this, as even like becoming a study, government funded, things like that. Her name is Melissa Lavasani, and she created the Psychedelic Medicine Coalition. She came on the podcast maybe a week or two later, flew in from DC, and that was the first time I met her. And it was really just supposed to highlight psychedelics when used potentially in this way, and the promise that they have for people who are struggling, specifically in postpartum. And so she shared her story, how she went from suicidal to, her example was, and then suddenly, it's like the record scratched in our home. I got down and played with my son. And of course I was like crying, like imagining someone who was
amazing. Yeah.
And at the time she was like growing her own mushrooms to do this. And then long story short, she realized the potential of this. And she's like, I never wanted to go on SSRIs. And because of her own reasons for people in her life, she's like, but I have studied this now, and natural medications like this, like plant medicine, specifically mushrooms in this scenario, have the ability to rewire neural connections. And there's no chemical, synthetic, or natural that can do that. And she was like, so SSRIs are really like dulling or taking the edge off and things like that. And that's correct. It's not like we take a medication, and that's not knocking it. When she told me, I didn't feel insulted. It's not rewiring anything in our brain. It's giving us a boost of certain chemicals, as we know, and potentially helping to dull the ones that are hard to, emotions that are hard to cope with. Therapy can help rewire. So when she said that, I was like, oh, it was the first time someone had put it that way. And so I was very interested in it. Long story short, my mom has struggled a lot in the last year with her own stuff. And so I called a friend who had believed in this and was like, I need my mom to go on this like plant journey that everyone talks about, for 7 hours. Everyone says it's 15 years of therapy. Like, I need her to go. And my friend's like, I feel like you should go before you send your mom. I haven't even actually shared this yet. And so anyway, that's the story of how I went off. I spoke to these psychotherapists to prepare myself, and they were like, you really can get the most benefit from an experience like this if you're not on medication. And if you feel comfortable, let's schedule it for a few weeks from now so you can wean off. And then of course you can go back on after this one day. And I haven't gone back on.
So did you do the one day?
Yeah.
What was that like?
I mean, how much time do we have?
Okay, wait, I have to ask. Did you have your own record scratch? Was it like a mic drop?
No, not like behaviorally after. Like, you know, it's
Okay.
not like I came out, you know, some close friends that I shared it with are like, are you transformed? And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, but I feel like I'm on my way. I mean, really what it unlocked was like things. It helped make sense of, as we're not trying to throw around, of traumas, you know, things that were embedded in my body, you know, like my mom is a martyr. And so that when I'm not, I feel like I'm failing. It helps me
Right.
as an example.
Yeah.
And it helped me unlock memories of like when she wasn't a martyr, and that there were mornings I went to school and she didn't wake up in the morning. And so like, of course I have no memory of her like freaking out, yelling and rushing us. Anyway, that's an example
Yeah.
of how it helps to like rewire certain things when you are able to access. But I guess the record scratch was that like, yeah, I've never been able to be off Zoloft for the last 20 some odd years, and I haven't been back on. And now I feel like my reason for not going on is that I potentially am like gonna not be as connected to the world because I won't feel what I'm supposed to feel to help direct me in the world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that feeling thing is so hard right now. Okay.
I know. I know. And I'm not trying to recommend. Yeah.
No, I
Oh,
just
yeah.
say it from my own personal experience of what I'm going through right now because I am feeling all the things and I don't know if I like it. It is a different sense of like being numb was kind of nice. And I
I
didn't
know.
realize how numb I was until now. I'm like, oh my gosh, everything is like. So the reason I went off of it, I was on venlafaxine. And every time I was maybe 30 minutes late on taking my med every day, I would get really big head rushes and vertigo, which is a side effect of venlafaxine because it has a very like 90% of the drug leaves your system in 24 hours. And so you need that additional boost
Wow.
every time. And I was just like, you know what? I'm done with this. I've been on it for like 3 or 4 years. I don't want to remember to take this pill every day. Let's just be done with it. And so my provider helped me wean off of it. And I weaned off about like early July, and it's mid-August right now, almost mid-August. And about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I felt like I wanted to cry all the time. Like this unending sense of like depression and like all hope is lost. And the thing with you where you said, like, I want to stay connected with my kids, I felt like this was disconnecting me from my kids. I was so in my emotions that I
Yeah.
couldn't show up the right way for my
Yeah.
kids. Why this I think is so important to talk about is because maybe until like a few days ago, I was giving myself a lot of shame for going off. I was like, oh, typical mistake. You know, you see you're doing fine, and then you go off your medication and everything goes downhill. So hearing your journey with it, Jennie, is really hopeful to me.
So that makes me curious, and I would love to chat more about this after the break. But how has your all's experiences with anxiety and medication and all of this? I want to have us like talk about how that has impacted how we choose to parent our kids and how we either have dealt with our children having anxiety or other issues like that, and or what we plan to do when they do start to show those things as a result of how our experiences were with our parents and then what we've had growing up. So let's talk about that right after the break. If there's one thing I know as a parent and early educator, it's that kids crave structure and not always the same kind for every kid. I had one who thrived in a back to basics setting and another who struggled every step of the way.
Yes, kids are different. That's where K-12 powered schools shine. They give your child a daily schedule, certified teachers, and tech-powered tools that keep them focused while letting them learn at their own pace in their own place.
And beyond those lessons, K-12 helps students build real-world skills and confidence. They have online clubs, social events, and learning experiences that are built around your student.
So join the more than 3 million families who have been served by K-12 and empower your student to reach their full potential now. Go to k12.com/ngm today to find a tuition-free K-12 powered school near you and enroll now. That's the letter K, the number 12.com/ngm. k12.com/ngm.
On average, you'll have to wait 31 days to see an OBGYN. And if you're dealing with an infection or outbreak, you know you need care fast. That's where WISP comes in. Connect with a U.S. licensed provider online and pick up safe, effective treatment at your local pharmacy that same day. Plus, get birth control and more delivered in all 50 states. Take control with comprehensive sexual and reproductive care, all from your phone. WISP. That's hellowisp.com. The waiting room can wait.
I'm always looking for ways to show my cat how much I love her. And with Fancy Feast gems, I can pamper her whenever I want with a savory gravy on top of a gourmet mousse pâté. The pyramid shape makes serving simple, so all I have to do is peel and plate to make mealtime feel extra fancy. And with 2 entrees in every pack, it's easy to turn every day into the extraordinary. Fancy Feast gems.
So right before the break, Jenny, we left with the question, like, how does this influence how we raise our kids now, especially when we see our kids struggling? And you have pretty young kids, right, Jenny? How old are yours?
5 and 7. Yes.
Do you see them struggling with any of these things right now?
Yeah. And it's interesting because one of the reasons that I was saying that, like, I want to stay off of it, even though it's hard sometimes, because I think it helps inform where I need to like heal. I really believe in what we were saying before when we were thinking back to our own parents, that there's like the energy there, right? Like I can say till I'm blue in the face to my girls, like, beautiful oops, mistakes are amazing. Like we learn from them and like all the things. My energy is perfectionism, which it really is at my core. They're at the age now where I see that come to fruition in a negative way. You know, I see perfectionism in my girls. I see them call me out on like, you know, why are you doing your hair? Whatever, all the things, both, you know, external and internal. And I just they're mirrors. I mean, one more than my other. Maybe not all kids are like the magnifying extreme ones. I have one of those, right? Like she knows all the things. And so I feel like that's why it's so important, right? Like you're modeling your energy, like your nervous system is around your kids. And so if I can't grow from like the areas in which like my nervous system was kind of like staying the same from these meds and things like that, like I just feel like I'm not unlocking the full like cycle breaking for them and myself, of course, for ourselves more than anything. And yet, when I do struggle, maybe with like getting more easily frustrated, like I was saying before, one of the things that comes up for me is like my patience level when I have more anxiety. I'm like, you know, in my head, this is why I should go back on. Like me getting more frustrated with them is like not fair. And here I am trying to heal for them. And then yet I'm like having a shorter temper. Yet that's how we like rewire and grow, right? Like every uncomfortable situation we go through, I recently posted this, helps to rewire our brains. So if I'm just like avoiding the frustration that's really there, you know, it's not overcoming it. And so, yes, obviously we need to like weigh that out. We don't want to just be like frustrated all the time in front of our kids. But I felt like I was after this experience, was in a place where I could work through those times, say to them, you know, mommy was frustrated earlier. I'm working on that. And like that's potential for all of us.
Yeah, you bring up a really interesting thing that I've been thinking about too, in terms of like dealing with all of these symptoms, is like maybe these symptoms are telling me that I need to change something in my life versus saying that something is wrong with me and how I am coping.
Yes.
And that by numbing all of these things, either through SSRIs or through alcohol, which honestly, just to be very, very brutally honest, ever since I went off the meds, I'm like, ooh, a drink sounds real nice. Just to like numb everything and make all the feelings disappear.
It's a thing our society is pretty chill with. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and there's no judgment at all.
No.
I wish my body still let me drink alcohol. Menopause has made that impossible. Or perimenopause, but yeah.
Like when I was on it, for instance, I didn't feel this sadness, but like when we were talking about how we raise our kids now,
Mm-hmm.
a story like pops in my mind this past weekend. My daughter's a high school senior and we've been going on college tours. And so we went to this one college and they're talking about all the opportunities and everything. And I just look back and I think of like how much anxiety and depression is taken from me in terms of that, because I wasn't medicated when I was in college. And I feel like I secluded myself. I made assumptions against people to kind of protect myself from uncomfortable social situations. And I didn't fully put myself out there. And so there was a bit of grieving. And like right now, I'm still crying. Look, I'm crying again.
I was just going to say, you're going to make me emotional. This is like a real, emotional trigger for me too. And just the empathy that I feel for you in looking back and feeling those things. Like I totally, and feel it too.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that I have those times where I look back and I'm like, oh, I wish I like showed up for myself differently. Look what I sacrificed when I didn't have to because I was so in my head.
Mm-hmm.
But I had those even on my 40th birthday, which was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was on medication, and I feel like maybe the purpose for us with medication was to help us get to the place we're at now, to see like what it was like to take from ourselves when we were in such throes of like not even being able to like, get out of our heads, to being in a place when we weren't in the throes, to now be like, okay, like maybe I could do this. You know what I'm saying? I know that's like a mouthful, but to me, that's what it feels, that like there was no growth to happen when you're like in the trenches,
You need it taken away a little bit.
Yeah.
I totally identify with that because this podcast in particular, I had such social anxiety. I would never be able to talk to people like I do on this podcast. I would like have panic attacks almost getting on with somebody that I didn't know at the beginning of recording this. And we've been doing this for 5 years now. And when I went on the medication, that went away. That went down so much so that I could come on, I could be calm, I could have that logical part of my mind engaged. So it's almost like I was able to use it to actually rewire my neural circuitry by taking actions that I wouldn't have if I hadn't been on the medication.
And then now you can access when you're maybe like going to come on and you're feeling that, you're like, wait, but I've been doing this. Like I can do this. Yeah.
I definitely think that like the impact that all of this has had on me as well, 'cause similar to you guys, like I've struggled with depression mostly in my life and then anxiety as well, but more so the depression. And I remember when I was younger going to the library, I was in high school, and during lunch one day I went in the library and I was like, I wonder if I have depression. And I looked it up and I'm like, go get the encyclopedia and a couple of books on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Read it and you're more like, okay, so this is what I have. Okay. And it says that if it's reoccurring, it'll come back in a few years. And I guess my point of the story is, like you guys, I can reflect back on all the times that were so much harder than they needed to be because I was doing it on my own, because I didn't want to tell my parents I was having these thoughts or feelings because, first of all, they never expressed it themselves. They never asked anything really about how I was feeling on a normal basis. You know what I mean?
So you didn't want to be the burden. I feel that. Yes.
Yeah. And I don't want that for my kids so much. And I know that there are so many things that could have gone better, right? I could have showed up as a better version of myself had I been able to get the help that I needed, but I was too scared to ask for it. Had somebody put their hand out when I was younger and had said, you look like you might be struggling with something. Can I help support you? I don't know if I could have said the word yes, but I certainly would have nodded yes enthusiastically. And so I want that for my kids. My kids are a little older than yours, Jenny. I have one who's going off to college on Sunday and another who's a senior in high school. So a little bit older. But yeah, like I've always been very big on talking about their feelings and how are they, and are you struggling? Like, mom's here, I'll help. I tell them about therapy. I tell them about my meds. My husband's really great when I'm having a struggly day and I'm snippy of asking me if I'm having a rough day. And I'll be like, yes. And then he'll help me communicate it if I have a difficult time with my kids. I love what we're showing them is that it's okay to not be perfect 24/7.
It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay to admit that we did not turn out okay. Right, Jenny?
Yeah. You know that I just changed that to add a ... at the end, which should have been from the beginning. But yes, that these are the way when we like acknowledge or look back on what you were both saying, that we weren't okay at those times, that like there's so much growth that can happen from that. You know what I mean? And again, like we can reach, I feel like, our highest potential. And I don't mean like successes and things like that. I mean like for ourselves, you know, like at the
being
core
happy.
of who we are. Yeah. Similarly, like, you know, I was just saying that even at my 40th birthday, I look back and I was like, I was so in my head, all these things. For me, what has really enabled me to get to the place of not giving into like those times has been this journey that I went on, that like I'm able to access, like it is true that there was like a rewiring there, you know? However, Dren, it sounds like from your examples that you're able to like give an example of how you rewired without a journey, which is really incredible that you were able to like have these experiences, go on medication, now go off and like not just go back to that place. Maybe sometimes, but like it sounds like
there's a lot of things I exploring right now on how to deal with it. You mentioned the rewiring of the brain using like psychedelics. And I don't know if you've heard of TMS, the transcranial magnetic stimulation. That is something, it rewires your brain in the same way, but it's a machine that's used by a therapist, a practitioner. It uses magnetic pulses to encourage neuroplasticity in the brain. And so I am trying that. I just had 2 sessions. I feel a little calmer, and it's supposed to be 6 sessions total. And it's just supposed to get better and better and better. But yeah, that's what I'm pursuing now.
Heard of that. Have you shared that yet?
Shared it?
Like on here?
No, this is the first time I'm talking about it because I just had my first 2 sessions yesterday and the day before. So I will, once the journey's a little more done.
Yeah.
When I can see some results from it. But yeah. So Jennie, thank you for joining us today and like sharing all of this and being vulnerable with us, because I really do believe like sharing more stories of anxiety and depression really helps people feel less alone. To shift to the other side, we always like to end the episode with looking forward to the future. So what's coming up for you right now that you're excited about?
Well, I'm so excited to be on this journey. Like truly, for anyone listening, like I'm not just saying that, like if it gives anyone hope or motivation to kind of like do work that they don't want to do or that they're avoiding. I'm in a place where like even the struggles that are ahead of me feel not exciting, but feel like real growth opportunities. And then aside from that, I'm really excited for back to school. I know that sounds kind of like crazy, but for what I do with work, whether it be Charm Spring and giving parents tools to help with those transitions and some new collaborations and partnerships that we're going to announce. And then with Union Square Play, we have new programming. So I'm excited to get back into the swing of all of that.
That's exciting. Back to school used to be such an exciting time for me as a teacher. Just trying out all the new things and doing the new stuff. It is
like
awesome.
A fresh start.
Yeah.
I'm just happy for back to school because that means my pumpkin spice lattes aren't far behind.
Oh, that's true. Great. And peppermint mochas aren't too far behind that. I mean, we're just counting down the flavors.
Right. You got to love fall and winter and, you know,
Yeah, definitely. Well, to all of you out there in podcast land, we hope that we brought you just a little feeling of not aloneness in this whole journey of motherhood, to know that the feelings that you're feeling, like you're not the only one. And until next time, remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for stopping by.
If you'd like to support the show further, you can share episodes with your loved ones, leave a positive review, or follow us on social media at No Guilt Mom. You can also show your love by visiting our amazing podcast sponsors. We have a link in the show notes.